Okay, quick question. When was the last time something that happened in Switzerland affected your life? Probably never crossed your mind, right? You've never been there, don't know anyone there. Switzerland is just watches, chocolate, skiing, nothing to do with you. Except here's the thing, it affects you every single month, has been for decades, and you had absolutely no idea. There's a building in Basel, Switzerland. It's round, tall, looks like something an architect designed after watching too many spy films. And every 6 weeks, no announcement, no cameras, no press conference, nothing. The most powerful central bankers on the planet quietly fly in from Washington, London, Tokyo, Mumbai. They sit in a room together, they talk, and then they leave. No transcript gets published, no journalist is anywhere near that room. No recording exists, or at least none that you'll ever see. But whatever gets decided in that building directly shapes the interest rate on your home loan, the inflation quietly eating your salary every month, the value of every rupee or pound sitting in your account right now. You didn't vote for a single person in that room. Nobody ever told you that room existed, but you are living inside the consequences of what they decide right now, today. That building is called the Bank for International Settlements, the most powerful financial institution in the world. And until about 30 seconds ago, you'd probably never heard of it. Last video we talked about something that genuinely changes how most people see money. Banks don't lend out other people's savings. When you take out a loan, the bank doesn't go into a back room and count out cash that was sitting there waiting. They just type the number into your account. That money didn't exist before you borrowed it. It was created in that moment. Wild, but documented, real. So, if that's true, the next question almost writes itself. Who controls the people doing that? Ask anyone. They'll say the government, or the central bank, the RBI, the Bank of England, the Fed. And yes, those are real institutions with real power, but even they answer to someone. Think about it like this. Your street has rules. Your city has a council. Your country has a government. But above all of that, there are international bodies that set frameworks everyone else has to operate inside. The BIS is that, but for money. Global money. It is, and this is their actual function, the central bank of central banks. The place where the people who control your country's entire money supply go to coordinate with each other 6 times a year, behind closed doors. I want to tell you about someone. Her name is Priya. She's 31, works in marketing in Bangalore, spent 3 years, saving every spare rupee she could so she could finally stop renting and buy her own flat. By 2022, she had enough for the down payment. She walked into a bank, feeling, probably for the first time in years, properly ready. And then, within months, interest rates jumped hard. The EMI on the exact same loan suddenly became 30% higher than what she'd planned around. That flat she'd been working towards for 3 years quietly moved just out of reach. She blamed herself. Of course she did. We always do. Felt like she hadn't saved fast enough, should have moved sooner, made the wrong call somehow. But Priya hadn't made a mistake. What happened to her was decided months before she ever walked into that bank. Inside coordinated meetings between central banks that trace back, in part, to conversations in Basel, Switzerland. The rate that blew up her timeline wasn't random, wasn't bad luck, wasn't her fault. It was policy, global policy, made in a room she didn't know existed by people whose names she'd never heard. And the thing is, Priya's story isn't special. It's happening to millions of people right now who are quietly absorbing the consequences of decisions made above their heads and calling it their own failure. The Bank for International Settlements was set up in 1930, and its original job was genuinely boring. It existed to handle Germany's war reparation payments after World War I, just a financial middleman, nothing dramatic. But institutions with even a little bit of real power have a habit of quietly expanding. Today, the BIS has 63 member central banks. Those 63 institutions together represent about 95% of the entire world's economic output. Sit with that for a second. 95% of everything the world produces, economically, connected under one roof, meeting 6 times a year, in private, coordinating. They call it the Global Economy Meeting, which is about the most deliberately boring name you could give something with that level of consequence. And here's the thing that separates this from conspiracy territory. The BIS is completely public. They have a website, they publish reports, they file annual accounts. They're not hiding that they exist, they're just banking on the fact that almost nobody ever thinks to look. There's something really important about how we process our own financial lives. When things get hard, when the EMI gets heavier, when the groceries cost more than last month, when the savings just aren't stretching the way they used to, we almost always go straight to self-blame. I'm not earning enough. I'm spending too much. I'm not disciplined enough. I should be further ahead by now. And look, personal decisions matter a lot. We'll spend a lot of time on this channel talking about that, but there's a trap underneath all of that. We assume the system is neutral, that it's a fair, flat playing field, and the only thing separating people is effort. It really isn't. The people in that building understand where inflation is heading before it hits your local supermarket. They're coordinating policy before the effects reach your street. They see the wave forming. You feel it when it lands. By the time the news is telling you interest rates changed, that conversation happened months earlier in Switzerland. The gap between what people at that level know and what the average person knows, that gap has a real cost, a monthly cost, a quiet, invisible one, paid by people like Priya, who never even knew there was a game happening above their heads. This isn't about being angry about it. It's about information. That's genuinely all it is. The moment you understand how the system actually works, you stop being confused by it. You stop mistaking its consequences for your personal failures. You start seeing clearly. 3 things, real ones. First, stop expecting the system to look after you. The BIS, your central bank, your government, they're managing the economy at a macro level. They are not managing your life. Nobody in Basel has your savings account open on their screen. That is completely and entirely your job. Second, inflation is not background noise. It's information. Mild, consistent inflation is built into this system on purpose, which means money that sits still loses value on purpose, not by mistake, by design. Priya had a savings sitting in a fixed deposit, earning around 5%. Inflation was running at 6%. Every single year she worked harder and saved more, and every single year she quietly fell behind. Not because she failed, because she didn't know the rules of the game she was playing. The people who figure this out move their money into things that grow alongside the system. Assets, index funds, property, businesses. The people who don't keep feeling like they're running hard and somehow standing still. Third, these institutions talk, just quietly. The BIS publishes quarterly reports, completely free. Investor banks read them, hedge funds study them. They carry early signals about where pressure is building in the global economy. Debt stress, currency tension, inflation forecasts. You don't need to become an economist to use this. You just need to know it exists, because most people around you never will. So, there's a building in Switzerland most people will never visit, run by an institution most people will go their entire lives without hearing about, making decisions that shape the financial reality of almost every person alive. That's not a film plot. That's not a theory. That's just how it works. Has been for nearly 100 years. And the reason so many people feel like they're doing everything right and still falling behind, the reason the system has this logic they can feel but never quite name, is because there is a logic, a structure, decisions being made at a level nobody ever showed them existed. But Priya, when she finally understood all of this, she didn't feel crushed by it. She felt something much more useful, clear, because once you actually understand the game, you stop playing like someone who was handed a board and never shown the rules. You start asking different questions, building differently, seeing differently. The most valuable thing in any financial system isn't your income. It isn't how much you've saved. It isn't your investment returns. It's understanding. And that's what we're building here. Every video. Next one, we're going somewhere much closer to home. Inside your own head. Something called money scripts. The beliefs about money and wealth you picked up before you were 10 years old, and how they've been making your biggest financial decisions for you ever since, without you ever realizing. That one is going to hit differently. See you there.